Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and you're seeing this on my birthday. Happy birthday to me. I'm filming this actually on Wednesday. My birthday is actually Thursday, which is the day you'll be seeing this. So I still feel happy birthday-ish. I've got my pink shirt on. I've got my pink deck. We're good to go. I want to also take the opportunity to thank all of you who voted on the time preference for when I premiere my videos. Because I just randomly chose 11 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It's my time, New York, because I just didn't know what time to do it. So I thought, let's take a vote and see when it's really more convenient. Interestingly, and I'm going to keep it going for a week or two because I know not everyone checks into YouTube every day and certainly doesn't check into me every day. So I figured I'd give it a week or two to see, where the dust settles when everybody, the majority of you pick a time. But as it is right now, 67% of you want to leave it the way it is. 8% want 6 a.m. my time, not too many. And then for 7 p.m., 25% want it later in the evening. So I have a feeling that the first and the last times will sort of even out and get sort of close to being evenish. So I may alternate, certain days I may do it at 11 in the morning and other days I may do it at 7 at night. Or if one is still in the majority, then the other one, maybe I'll release a bonus video later that day. I don't like to release more than one video on the same day because I don't like to bombard you guys with videos. So another thing I want to mention is some of you who've been following me and you know my personal story a little bit, and I've been dreaming a lot or connecting with my dad a lot. And it's been going on for a few years, so it's not just because of this reason, which I'm going to be sharing. But I do want to mention that my father died 1 month beyond his 67th birthday. And I know that that's been playing in my head, like I'm the same age as my dad when he died, and I just really want to get through September. I just really want to get through September, So I think in recent weeks, my connecting with him might not be so much as he connecting with me, as me reaching out to him, because I'm thinking about him so much. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that out there. So I thought today we would talk about shuffling. Now it's a banal thing, but it's something we have to do as tarot readers, right? We got to shuffle. And even if you're not a tarot reader, if you're just someone who likes to tune into tarot cards and to tarot readings on YouTube, for example, bear in mind that shuffling matters. How many times have you been watching a channel and somebody does a reading and then they say, let's do the cards and let's do another reading, and they shuffle it 2 or 3 times. And even if it's overhand shuffle, even if it's like a riffle shuffle, 2 or 3 times for a deck of 78 cards, it's not going to shuffle. So that's why you may see when sometimes when certain readers will say, oh my gosh, it's the same cards, it's telling us because we're connecting with the same cards. If you're only shuffling 2 or 3 times, you're going to get the same cards because you're not shuffling the deck. It's when you shuffle the deck thoroughly when you see the same cards pop up, then it means something. Or if you switch the deck and you have another deck that shows the same card, that you have something. So I thought I would demonstrate that. Now, I chose my You Are Magic tarot deck by Soleia, not because it's necessarily my favorite deck, but it's pink and it's pretty, and I feel like being pink and pretty on my birthday. And I can't even tell you where I bought this deck. Now the edges, I edged it with pink highlighter. It came to me just with white edges. It was advertised, I think, as having pink edges, but it did not have pink edges when I received it. So I don't know, why that was. But overall, I just love it. It's pink. It's pretty. Now this deck was in order, and I wish I I should have showed you that it was in order, but I just started shuffling it. My process, and I've changed my process over the years. I may have had another video in the past. Ignore that one because I don't do it that way anymore. What I do is I riffle shuffle 11 times because I read statistically that for a 78 card deck, well, actually what I read statistically is that for a 52 card deck, a deck has to be shuffled 7 times, riffle shuffled 7 times to get a good clean slate. So with the extension of, 26 more cards, my math, which could be off, told me that 10.5 times would be enough to riffle shuffle a 78 card deck. Well, you can't riffle shuffle 10.5 times, so I riffle shuffle 11. And then, just to give it the human touch, because riffle shuffling sometimes is impersonal, then I do 21 of overhand. And then when I flip the camera, and before I lay the cards, to prove to you guys that I don't have a stacked deck of cards that I very conveniently want to have show, because I think that happens sometimes, and I like to prove that that's not happening. So I'm going to just show you. All right, now I riffle shuffled 11 times. I overhand shuffled 21, and now I'm overhand shuffling a few times just for you to see. I have no idea what these cards are, and I'm going to show you first before I even see them, but we're going to get a sense that this really does shuffle the deck. Okay, so we have the Ace of, and this deck, it's called Pentacles. You have 3 batons, Ace of Cups, 7 swords. So you see, it's a very well shuffled deck. We have 3 batons. Oh, excuse me, this is King of Swords. I apologize. So you see, it's a well shuffled deck. And that's what you want. You want a well shuffled deck. And every time when I say I'm going to my meditative place and I'm going to handle and mix the cards, I'll be right back. What I'm doing is riffle shuffling 11 times, overhand shuffling 21, and then I come on and then I do a couple of these. So I just wanted to, mention. So sometimes people ask me how I shuffle or what's my process. That's my procedure, and I do it. Usually, always. The only exceptions there are would be maybe if I'm doing like demonstration readings where there's not a real question, something like that. And if I'm doing a question on the same topic, sometimes I'm slack, if I'm doing a demonstration reading, like if I'm doing a reading that's, like let me think of an example. Well, I can't think of an example per se, but like say for example, I ask a question, and maybe I only laid 3 cards, and the answer or the response that I understand leads me to think of another aspect of the same question. So I have a question on the same question, right? So what I'll do then is maybe I'll just riffle shuffle the 11 times, or I'll, overhand shuffle 7, or I'll determine, at that time how many I think I'll do, because I'm just getting clarification. So I don't feel like I have to clear the deck for a clarification kind of question. But most of the time, even for clarification, I will do the whole kit and caboodle. It's just if like I'm getting lazy, and we're trying to wrap up a video or something like that, maybe I won't. But ideally, you want a clear deck. So I just thought I'd mention that. So let me go off camera, come up with a question to do a reading on with this very pretty pink deck. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I thought of a nice reading to do would be what I should focus on for the next coming year of my life, or this year of my life, this next year, this next chapter in my life. Now I could do my yearly spread, but I could, because that would be very specific and, oops, I'm sorry, that's upside. It would be very specific, but I don't really need to be specific. I just want to see a gist, a general idea of what things to keep in mind for this coming year of my life. And I'm using a very pretty pink deck because I love pink. It's not necessarily my favorite tarot deck, But, I feel like being light and fluffy. Now, this is not a cute little unicorn kind of deck at all. If anything, it's minimalist. And I tend to like minimalist decks. I really do tend to like them, in a modern deck. In a modern deck, I like minimal. I don't know why. Because it's the concept. Just like in the old time decks, it's the concept. Okay, so with that in mind, I asked the universe to just give me a snapshot of the things that will be highlights or things to avoid or concern myself with in the coming year. And next August, when we take a look at this spread, I'll see how accurate it was, because I do like to touch base when I do a read that's predictive, or not that it's necessarily predictive, but just to see how things played out. So the Hermit card, first card. So I'm getting older, that's for sure. Lucky to see a new year. I'm very, very pleased to see it. The Star, it's going to be a good year. An enlightening year, a year of enlightenment, perhaps. Well, that's how it starts out anyway. Queen of Swords. So perhaps, I don't typically see myself as the Queen of Swords, but maybe I have to be, tap into a little bit of that Queen of Swords energy. The Hierophant or the Pope, falling under the Hermit card. So those are cards of wisdom, cards of counsel, cards of perhaps introspection. Front and center of the core 9. King of Wands. Not typically my husband. I don't see my husband as the King of Wands, as I don't see myself as the Queen of Swords, but perhaps each of us need to have a little bit of this energy for ourselves. Page of Swords. Could be a few things. Could be children or child, or it could be messages coming in. These don't necessarily have to represent my husband and I, although I tend to see court cards as representing people. I do tend to see that, just as tips for others if you're trying to learn. But you can just see them as the energy of that, and you can see pages as messages coming in. Knight of Swords. Okay. So we have sword energy here. The Queen, the Page, the Knight. 10 of Cups. Emotional fulfillment to the point of maybe gooey saturation. And then 4 of Swords. So let me figure out the Quint cards. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so as you can see, I had to dip into another deck for another Quint card for the Quint for this row, for the Hierophant or the Priest, for the Pope. So I just chose the Fortuna one. It was handy, and two, it's similar in color. It's pink, but quite different. So we have, I just thought I'd show, the symbolism actually for these two cards are quite similar as well, aside from being in the pink range. So I'm happy to see that there's no death card or there's no card of disruption like the Tower, or that there's any, moon card suggesting deception or moodiness or anything like that. And then there are no the Magician card. But in the absence of those other things that I mentioned, I'm not seeing the Magician card as being one of deception, although it could be. It could be, we do have, the Magician can be sneaky on his own. He doesn't have to be dependent on these other things, but he could also be clever. So perhaps I'll be called upon to be clever, or maybe it will be a clever year for me. Or maybe, we'll see what the rest of the cards suggest. So we do have some male dominant kind of things pressing. We have the Emperor as a Quint in the top row. We have the Pope, or as it's called here, the Hierophant. We have a king front and center. And then, so there is a suggestion of, I don't know if it's male dominance or male advice, or it could be the energy of my husband. Could be as I'm affected by politics, it could be government. I'm also thinking a lot about, like, what's it called? Disclosure. I've kind of been preoccupied by it. If you saw my reading on disclosure, I think it was one of the bonus videos on a previous read. So I didn't, release it publicly. It's like unlisted, but you can access it through one of my other videos in the descriptive area. But I definitely have mixed feelings about disclosure with alien life. So maybe that could be part of it. My preoccupation, perhaps in the course of the year, that will become more of a thing publicly. I say that because I see the Hierophant twice, or the Pope twice, and I keep thinking that if there is going to be disclosure, it will come via the Vatican for some reason. But it might not have anything to do with any of that, and it just might be male energy or council or politics that will affect me, because it does. I really like how the spread begins with the Hermit and the Star, and then the energy of the Queen of Swords. Just having like enlightenment or introspection, taking action. And then the Emperor. Well, it could be my momentum politically, right? Taking action regarding that. I am vocal on my YouTube channel, that's for sure. Then we have a row that's dominated by the Pope, or the Hierophant, and the Magician. We do have 2 court cards in between. Could still be politics. Could be political messages coming in. Could be in part the disclosure thing, or just my fascination with the universe. Could be that too. The suggestion that the rest of the overall, the quint for the overall year, can be magical. It could be a time of enlightenment. It can be a time of things beginning to make sense, although things do make sense to me. Generally, even if they don't make sense, I understand where they're coming from. And then there's a need for tempering. And the need for tempering falls on the row with the Knight of Swords, 10 Cups, and 4 of Swords. So we have emotional fulfillment that's hindered by agitation, possibly coming from an outside source. So I have to be able to temper that. I have to be able to perhaps not let my emotions, be overpowered, rather, I should not, maybe this means that I should not become overly emotional regarding political forces or political things that are going on. I see these cards as probably political, because they're the suit of swords, action being taken. I see the suit of swords as authority, the suit of authority, suit of law. So, I have a feeling that I have to probably not allow my emotions to get the better of me and keep it tempered, because I have to do that now. So it's probably not unusual for me to see that in the future, or to be something that I need to concern myself moving forward, just as it is something that I need to do now. But I'm feeling good about this. I'm feeling good about it. I don't see anything that's terrible. I see, perhaps I'll have a clever year. Maybe I'll be clever. Maybe I'll be presented with clever problems or tricky problems that I'll be clever enough to navigate. And what do you think? I think it looks like a pretty good year. And I'm not really seeing this as my husband here. I'm seeing this more as, because it's flanked with the Hierophant, so I'm seeing this more as either political or power that is outside of my life, my family, right? I'm seeing it as power that's coming, external power. And front and center of the core 9, the King of Wands. He's not flanked by cards that oppose. He's not flanked by Earth. In fact, there's no Earth in this spread. Which is interesting. So I would say this is like the negative of I don't think it's the negative qualities of the King of Wands, because I don't see any Earth anywhere near him. So I don't see that he's being this card is being antagonized by any Earth cards. But I see this as like fiery nature, movement, social upheaval, social activity. Well, yeah, I guess so. I wonder if this is who. Although it's not flanked by Earth, it is more or less flanked by authority, dogma, trying to force us all to be religious. Wow, yeah, that's what it is. It's trying to force us, or I'm offended by the religious stuff. I really am. I'm offended by that. Being thrust upon us as though the whole world has to be Christian, or the Christian morals, when that camp is so hypocritical. They have nothing to do with Christian morals, which is what flays me. So anyway, I think I have that whole political package to deal with, and I think it's going to be a feature of my life until we're able to get through it. And but I am hopeful that I do have the energy, I do have the wherewithal, I do have the power, I have the stamina to confront all this that comes down the pike. And I have to make sure I can temper my emotions and not let the external BS take me to too much of an emotional place. And I have to be clever. And, I think this deck, I'm not sure if this deck probably slants towards Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm not sure. Let me go check and see what card the 8th card is. I was just going to say, this deck can be read as, as a pip deck, and it also could be read as Rider-Waite-Smith. It can be read as a pip deck because nothing here really looks like Rider-Waite-Smith, right? Except maybe the Magician, where, they're manifesting rather than being tricky or clever. But I could still understand this the way I want. Unfortunately, Justice is 11, and I always prefer Justice to be 8. But other than the ordering, I don't know that this is necessarily lending itself to Rider-Waite-Smith more than a pip deck, because the creator may not have even realized that. I think sometimes creators don't even realize that Justice and Fortitude were switched. I can't speak for the creator, so I don't know. But to be honest, I don't even know why I just checked the number. It'll come to me later, and if it does come to me later, I'll put it down in the descriptive area, because I lost my train of thought when I was looking for the card. So I'm looking forward to the new year. The new year for me. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think I have some good energy starting off, and if I take care not to allow the external energies and the external political stuff to really, drive me crazy, and if I'm able to temper my own emotions, and I think I can have a handle on things. And I may have to be deceptive. I think that, the Magician card is a card that can call for deception. And sometimes we have to be deceptive, or maybe sometimes we have to not lay all our cards on the table. Sometimes we have to take a back seat. Knowledge is power, and if you put all your power out there, or if you put all your knowledge out there, sometimes you lose power, right? I've learned that too, just from doing, all these videos, I know people are learning from me, and I know people are writing. I've heard that people, have written books based on my information, because when you put power out there and you're sharing power, sometimes it gets taken, right? When you share, power, knowledge is power. When you give your knowledge, it gives other people power, which I'm happy to do. And I don't resent anybody doing that. But sometimes there are times when you have to withhold your knowledge, because that's your power. And so there might be times when I'll be called upon to hold back my knowledge or my power. Not necessarily referencing tarot. I'm just using that as an example. But in other aspects of my life, it might be beholden of me to withhold what I know, or to keep silent on certain things, because we are talking about introspection here, and controlling the emotions and tempering things. So I think there will be times when I should withhold information, or to be a little bit on the clever side. Anyway, I thought this was a great read. I'm looking forward to the coming year. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and be brave.